proud to be St. Louis made. I'm not, but gosh, with all of the buzz going on and all of the energy around this region, it's contagious, right? I wish I were St. Louis made. Thank you to Mayor Cruzen and the entire St. Louis community. We feel you. Start up, stand out, and stay. Our next panel will include several of the GEOINT movers and shakers around the St. Louis area community, including USGIF St. Louis Area Working Group Chair. Today, their discussion will focus on the thriving and growing geospatial hub of excellence in the region. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our moderator for the afternoon, Ms. Tara Mott, who is the co-chair of the St. Louis Area Working Group. And she is also the NGA account manager for ESRI and has been in St. Louis in that position since 2013. Tara, over to you.
All right, thank you, Rhonda. And I think that most of us can agree that the energy here is pretty amazing. So thanks again, Mayor Cruzen, for the talk earlier. And I think that we're trying to do exactly what you've mentioned, Director. Committing to people and partnerships, and that's really what the St. Louis Area Working Group is all about. I'm going to talk just a couple minutes about the working group, and then we're going to do some introductions, and then we've got some questions set aside. So our St. Louis Area Working Group is the only regionally focused working group under USGIF, and we are comprised of, both local and federal government, civic organizations, academia, and industry in the area. And we have over 250 active members, really, that are kind of coming together monthly to be able to do some great things in St. Louis. It's been going on for 2 years, and it was actually incepted here at GEOINT 2 years ago in 2017. So, Rhonda already did a wonderful introduction of me, so I'm going to turn it over to Otis to introduce himself. So a couple minutes each, and then we'll go into some of the questions.
Okay, great. I'm Otis Williams, and I'm the Executive Director for the St. Louis Development Corporation, which is the city's economic development arm. And we're the guys that you've come to see if you want to basically stay in St. Louis or come to St. Louis or need help. We are, as I say, I'll paraphrase what the director said, show me, which is the show me state, show me the way to Missouri. This is what we are about.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Bret Markham. I live in St. Louis. I'm dual-hatted as the Deputy for Operations for NGA, so work for General Charlie Cleveland in that hat. In my other hat, serve as what we refer to as the West Exec, which kind of oversees operations and activity in the St. Louis region. And our job is to get engaged, stay engaged, and put out a great product for our community partners and customers around the globe.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christine Woodard. I am a longtime NGAer and a native to the St. Louis area. I'm proud to sit up here today as a co-chair of NGA's St. Louis Area Geospatial Ecosystem Steering Committee, which was created to really help synchronize all the touch points that NGA has with the community. So it's been awesome. And one of the things that SAGE does is help folks like Bret maintain situational awareness of all the goodness that's going on.
Very good. Thanks for having me. My name is Ken Olif. I have the pleasure of serving as Vice President for Research at St. Louis University. St. Louis University is a 200-year-old Jesuit institution in the city of St. Louis. I'm a newcomer, relative newcomer to St. Louis. I joined just 3 years ago after 12 years at the University of Chicago.
All right, thank you, Ken. Okay, first question for Otis. The federal government's decision to expand NGA's presence in the city positions St. Louis as a regional powerhouse in geospatial expertise, benefiting from the vibrant innovation community that is already there. What are some changes you're seeing already in the city, or what progress have you seen to date?
Well, it's just the enthusiasm. We have great partners, and so for a long time, we knew that the NGA was in St. Louis because they were behind a brick wall and the barbed wire fence down in South St. Louis. But with the announcement, we started to see more openness, and we've been working together as partners since the announcement. So June 2nd night of 2016 became a big day. Since that time, we have formed a number of groups. Some of them are represented here. with working great partnership with the St. Louis Area Working Group to foster a number of initiatives. One in workforce, the entrepreneurship, innovation, and most important, economic development. So the thing that we found is that we know more about what is happening in St. Louis and all of the related skill sets that are there. So right now we know that we have over 10,000 jobs that are effectively in the support of the NGA, in the geospatial world, and that there are another 17,000 that are out there that are more in the indirect and induced workforce. And we have this great capability to grow. And so we're just excited about the potential for the growth. And so we've come together collectively, and most of my partners are here, at least they're represented here. And so working together both from the regional chamber, the state, from the local universities and corporate communities, we see this ecosystem really growing.
Okay, thank you, Otis. And then just kind of piggybacking on that, you mentioned around 17,000 jobs in that. So beyond NGA and the Department of Defense, what other industry sectors in St. Louis are prominent in leveraging GIS for business applications?
Well, let me correct that. That's a total of 27,000, okay?
Okay, sorry.
So it's a total of 27,000. 10,000 of them, we know who they are because they're working directly in the field. But we have great corporations, and so we see the folks who are working in bio and financing, agricultural. All those communities are coming together. We know they are great users of the location ecosystem. And so having, the ability to rally all of those folks together to take advantage of all of the things that we've learned about the NGA and what they do, I think it's going to be very beneficial both to St. Louis, but to the world.
All right, thank you, Otis. Okay, shifting to Bret. How is NGA West preparing for the transition to N2W, and in what ways is NGA engaging with the community already?
Great questions. But first, before I go into that, if you didn't see Mayor Crusen's talk this morning, I would strongly commend that to you. It was phenomenal. And it told a great story about the buzz and the vibe that's going on in the St. Louis region. But back to your question. First of all good things come in three, according to my boss. He finds that interesting. I find it fascinating. So I'm going to center my remarks in the people, partnerships, and mission category, both mission today and mission tomorrow. So on the people front, we've been very proactive in seeking out a diverse workforce with many different skill sets, many of them with GIS requirements associated with them, but it's much broader than that. I mean, we're essentially a global operation that need contributors from financial analysts to geospatial analysts to imagery analysts, et cetera. And as such, we've redoubled our effort, what I would call focused recruitment efforts in the St. Louis region, above and beyond what we've done in the past by targeting certain activities in that region and essentially being prepared to offer on-the-spot job offers, which is kind of cool. We've expanded our internship program in the people category in St. Louis, growing agency-wide 300 this year, but 100 of those or so are going to be in the St. Louis region. So part of my job is to sink the hook and keep them in the St. Louis region, certainly on Team NGA. And then expanding what we call our Partners in Education program. That's a very targeted program, K through 12, and in the St. Louis region, we have over 80 academic institutions that participate in that and over 400 NGA officers that volunteer their time to go out and educate the youth to get them excited and energized about the wave of the future. Kind of in the partnership category, we have expanded our cooperative research and development agreement process. It is something we have used in the past, but we are renewing that effort and expanding the use of that tool, and Christine will talk a little bit about that in her remarks. And also, for the first time, NGA created what's called a partnership intermediary agreement with the Missouri Technology Corporation. It's a brand new initiative over the last number of months and will enable us to have a direct link, if you will, with a nonprofit that reaches into both industry and academia in ways that we have not been able to do in the past. And on the mission front, we're very focused not only just mission today, but on mission tomorrow. And as such, as part of the energy around N2W, or next NGA West, we have initiated what we call a mission laydown review. And we're looking at where on the globe does NGA perform its mission today, and where do we want it to be performed in the 2025 timeframe, so that we can make adjustments in resources and personnel over the next 5 years, so that when we land in the new campus, if you will, that we've got the right skills with the right mission sets lined up and the right architecture to support that group. So very, very excited about the way that's unfolding. And there's certainly going to be increased opportunity to attract new talent and to support all those types of missions. Kind of in the community engagement arena, if you will, federal, state, and local are been absolutely critical up to this point and will continue to be now that we've awarded the contract. Sue Pullman and Tom Bukowski and the entire N2W program team have done a phenomenal job. And we're what we call design after award right now, with hopefully groundbreaking occurring later this year. So stay tuned for that. But we also participate, as you know, actively in the St. Louis Area Working Group, which you mentioned, in the innovation sector. NGA has a physical presence in T-REX, where we have a deliberate connective tissue with that vibrant community. We also work with teammates that are over in the Cortex Innovation Center, or KIC, we call it. We have established neighborhood community engagement strategies through our Office of Corporate Communications and our N2W program office. So we're reaching out to members of the community in proximity to the new campus and answering and addressing questions, explaining what's going on and why, and what opportunities, frankly, N2W moving into North St. Louis will present. And finally, in the McCarthy HIT, the teaming company that won the award for Build, we've actually started working with them because they have a community relations strategy as well. And we want to be part of that so that we're helping tell the story about what NGA is all about, where we're going, and what opportunities the new construction project presents for the entire community.
All right. Well, thank you, Bret. Okay, shifting over to Christine. Can you tell us a little bit more about what SAGE is? How do you get involved with SAGE? Why is it important? What value?
Sure. So SAGE, Bret mentioned all the pieces and all the ways in which there are touch points in the ecosystem, and really about the people and the partnerships. And I told you a little bit about SAGE in the beginning, but really how it came to be, I'm in the research directorate for NGA and was doing a lot of academic outreach. My colleague and I had been out in the community and just realized all of the opportunities that were being presented that N2W served as a catalyst for. So with the people and partnerships we have with the ecosystem, it was realized that NGA wasn't organized necessarily to take advantage of all the opportunities and keep track of everything. So we approached Bret and said, hey, what do you think about kind of putting a steering committee together to keep track of all the touch points? And he said, fantastic. And oh, by the way, you two are the co-chairs. So it has been absolutely great. One of the ways we get folks involved, we had reached out to the community to find out all the other NGA folks that were currently involved and got them to join the steering committee. And it's really open to all. It's an internal NGA way of just kind of making sure we're all aware of what's going on and seeing where partnerships can develop.
Okay, thank you, Christine. So, kind of looking at this, are there any other ways that, besides SAGE, that NGA is already partnering with the community besides, again, the St. Louis Area Working Group?
Oh my gosh, yes. There's a lot of ways. We can't solve all the hard problems alone, as you've heard repeatedly over this week. And so we're really embracing the ecosystem and benefiting from the St. Louis community's efforts to create St. Louis as the Geospatial Center of Excellence. So there's startups, venture capitalists, established companies that are being attracted to the St. Louis area, and we're able to take advantage of those by being embedded in places like the T-REX. It's allowing a lot of our analysts and NGA employees to really be embedded and to get that diversity of thought and entrepreneurship spirit, the spirit of it, and innovative approaches to solve those problems. And you know, there's also things like Launch Code that NGA has partnered with, and Launch Code is a nonprofit, and it is a way to get folks really up to speed on being a developer. So the Dev Corps in St. Louis specifically has hired, I think, 20% of their new developers from Launch Code, so that's been an excellent partnership as well. And then the K through 12 program, we've had folks go out with our UIS team from the Research Directorate, and the kids always love that and get really excited about geospatial.
All right, thank you, Christine. Okay, shifting over to Ken. Through the established CRADA, St. Louis University and NGA co-hosted a very successful georesolution event this past April in St. Louis. And can you explain a little bit more about how the idea came to fruition, like if you accomplished what you wanted to, some of the highlights?
Sure. Yeah, my pleasure. So a little bit of background. When I was being recruited to St. Louis University was exactly when the N2W announcement came out about positioning the campus in North St. Louis. And then as I started on the role, I learned that SLU had a long partnership with the NGA through our engineering school, specifically around drones and UAV. I started to get to know the NGA after we started, and there was interest in building a much broader partnership that would include an expanded set of research topics, but also working around helping with a talent pipeline and expanding the skills of the NGA workforce. So that led to the creation of a CRADA, which we signed with the NGA at the end of last year, and then we were approached by the NGA Director's Office about would we be interested in hosting a conference in St. Louis that would be based on a model that the NGA has done for several years at Georgetown University. We were pleased and thrilled to be asked, and so this happened in March of this year. And we did a fantastic reception the evening before that we had luminaries like Google's chief internet evangelist, Vint Cerf, who apparently actually invented the internet, and Governor Parson. And then we had an all-star cast on the day of the conference. And reflecting afterwards, we were helped with a very generous philanthropic gift that helped us to do a really first-class event. And then reflecting on it afterwards, I think what SLU and the NGA were able to do together is we created a kind of platform that channeled the enthusiasm and the energy that was already there in St. Louis. So it was a real privilege for us to provide that kind of space, but the energy and the enthusiasm was just waiting for an opportunity. So it functioned as a kind of launching party for this regional aspiration for being a center for geospatial excellence. And then we were very pleased to be asked by the NGA to host the next conference. So mark your calendars, March 25th of 2020, GeoResolution Part 2.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Ken. I mean, really, the energy just is there. It did just need to be let out. It needed an avenue, right? So.
I'm not the first person to have said this, but as a newcomer to St. Louis, I'm really amazed and impressed at this collaborative spirit that's in St. Louis. It really is palpable. It came to me. There's like this spirit of St. Louis. Anyway, but it's real, and I think there are things that are possible in St. Louis that simply aren't possible other places. And this, we're making a lot of it, but this connection between academia and the innovation communities and government and industry and so on, I think that's really the secret sauce that St. Louis has going for it.
It really is. And if I can add one thing too, it's like we've had a great partnership through CRADAs, which are cooperative research agreements, research and development agreements. And we've worked very closely with SLU, where all the other universities, we've got CRADA and work with Washington University as well as the University of Missouri System. There will be others as well. And Bret pointed out the PIA, Partnership Intermediary Agreement with the Missouri Technology Corporation, and my colleague Mike down there, Mike, raise your hand, Fitzpatrick, he is heading that up out of the OVI office. And they're going to be putting on a hackathon actually coming up this fall, which is going to be a great way to include academia, industry, as well as the innovation community and NGA. So it's all about people and partnerships.
All right. Thank you, Christine. So so we were talking about benefits of the CRADA. So this can be for anybody. I'm kind of directing it to Ken, but feel free to answer. So how can the innovation community tap into or work together better with some of the local universities and colleges?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So I've spent 20-something years of my career working in universities, and I'll be the first to admit that universities are opaque organizations and not always the easiest to work with. The good news is, though, is we have enormous assets and resources and expertise to draw upon. So the benefit of working with universities is tremendous. So one of the things that we're doing at SLU, and I share this with my colleagues at WashU and University of Missouri, is we want to be great partners. We want to mobilize our assets to really be able to serve the community. We have really, really smart faculty. We have the ability to train, spectacular talent. So one of the things that's important with that is that we are at SLU taking a university-wide approach. So Geospatial is not sitting in one corner of the university that's jealously guarding it, but rather we're tapping into expertise and resources across the whole institution. We're launching a Geospatial Institute, which will be a single point of contact for engaging with industry, government, and the community more broadly. So I would say it's not easy, but it's definitely worth it. And my colleagues and I from the region's universities, we are absolutely committed to being the best possible partners that we can be.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Go ahead.
Can I just say that in St. Louis, we're finding that from all sectors of our community, people are trying to get on board to support the geospatial mission. So we have folks from all areas. We find that all the universities, I think they're sort of competing against each other, right? But we have the corporate community, we have our innovation community, we have the school systems from K through 12. Everybody wants to be involved. So there's that newfound energy, and everywhere we turn, we find people we find new people every day who are just looking to become involved or figure out how to support us. And so that's that energy, and what we want is to find all of you who like to be in St. Louis and enjoy that energy to come and be with us.
If I could just double tap, I would tell you the vibe and the positivity, I'll call it, in that region is extraordinary. And I mentioned earlier, we have a number of volunteers from our workforce at NGA that participate specifically in the Partners in Education program. But I will tell you, the spirit of cooperation, the spirit of volunteerism, if you will, from an NGA perspective is phenomenal. Our workforce is outstanding, as you all know, and they are ready to jump in when and where appropriate to share, to grow the community. So we want to be good neighbors, good partners with all assets and facets of the community there in St. Louis. So we're all in, is the short answer.
All right. So, okay, getting back to the questions. So, thanks, Christine. No, it's all right. I actually did have a follow-up question for you. So, I know you briefly mentioned the PIA with MTC. So, explain a little bit more about what the value of the Missouri Technology Center, or the MTC, is in providing to the innovation community in St. Louis and NGA.
So it's really a way to get not only our technology out to the community to be able to partner and benefit from that, but it's also a way to get startups involved in helping NGA solve our hard problems. So one of the other things that MTC and Mike and OVI are trying to do is kind of stand up an accelerator program in the St. Louis area too, which will be huge for NGA. So it's very exciting. And it's just a way to get more folks involved in the tech transfer.
And so if people do have questions about that you would be the appropriate POC to try to reach out to? Or...
Raise your hand again, Mike.
Oh, okay.
Mike Fitzpatrick.
All right, Mike Fitzpatrick.
And I can certainly direct you to him as well.
If I could just touch on the PIA, it's an opportunity both for NGA employees as well as industry and academia. And the model, in a sense, is if you have a great idea, we use MTC as a conduit for tech transfer, licensing, et cetera, in a way that we've never done within the NGA family. So it's a new approach, I'll call it, to industry and academic and engagement, and one that I think we need to take full advantage of. And we only do this in NGA currently in St. Louis. So let me say it one more time. We only do this in NGA in St. Louis right now. So if you want to play in PIA, it's in St. Louis.
All right, thank you. All right, so then moving on. So this is back to Otis. Put your Facebook down. No, just kidding.
Folks are communicating with me.
All right, Otis, what do you see as the biggest challenges with making St. Louis the Geospatial Center of Excellence from your perspective?
Well, it's like one of those things where we don't have a problem. we are going to make it the center, and if we aren't already the center. And so the mayor always says that we're the center, and so when she says it, it is. So, so the fact that we've put together a vehicle we call Project Connect, and Project Connect is where we try and ensure that all stakeholders and everyone who has an interest in advancing the geospatial mission come together. And so it involves community. Initially, it was focused around ensuring that we were able to transform the community around the site, the new site. But it also provides us a vehicle for our utilities, for our corporate community, for any organization who would like to support, for a way to have it essentially be sort of without any flaws or any, it's sort of seamless. And so, so we're very happy to have that in place. And so it's one of those things that makes it pretty easy. I think maybe to answer your question directly, we just need more companies to come. We would like to see the companies that are there, help them to expand. We have a low cost of living. We can provide you with the workforce that's needed. And so we don't see a challenge. You come see us and we can make it happen.
All right, thank you, Otis. And I have been to some, I've had the opportunity to participate in some of the working groups for Project Connect that they do have in the neighborhood. And I will say that NGA is definitely present, you know, the NTW staff. And there is a big community effort. And I think what I've seen is just the more familiarized they are, you know, the more transparency I think that is coming with NGA. I think the community is embracing NGA's transition into the community so much more. It's really been, I think, a big shift since before the decision was made to where it is currently.
Well, and it's also, we're operating more in the open now than we ever did before. So for, you know, when I first started my career down by the river, a lot of people didn't know what NEMA at the time, NGA was, and just creating these non-traditional partnerships and just really doing more unclassified work. We're really just being able to get out there more. So it's been fantastic. Yeah.
You can finally say that you work for NGA, right?
That's right.
Okay,
But let me
great.
tell you, it's a culture change because it was weird. The first time I went to like an event and was like, they're like, who do you work for? So it's been great. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a little bit more for Bret. So earlier you mentioned, you know, you talked a lot about the people, the talent pipeline, and everything else that's in St. Louis. Are there any unique mission areas that you can speak to, obviously in an open forum, for GEOINT that are predominantly done in St. Louis, Vice Virginia, or other locations around the world? And I'm emphasizing maybe some of the geomatics, especially since they presented at some of our last type of working group opportunities.
The short answer is yes, and I'll proudly give you a brief description of some of those activities that we do in St. Louis. As was mentioned by the director in his remarks earlier this week, about 25% of NGA's workforce is in St. Louis or in the St. Louis region. And we're very proud of some of the unique contributions we make to the global GEOINT enterprise in partnership with many of our colleagues around the globe. One of which is Office of Geomatics. That is predominantly a function that is done in St. Louis, and it circles back to know the earth. These are the individuals that spend a lot of time and energy in the STEM world to be able to identify specifically the Earth's magnetic field, the gravity field, so that we can actually map an XYZ coordinate with accuracy and precision that enable all the other activities to occur, from targeting to finding your Starbucks on the corner kind of thing. So the heavy sciences, if you will, are captured very well and eloquently there. Our aeronautical team in St. Louis supports the Department of Defense Global Operations and is exclusive and unique to St. Louis. And that team has been there in one form or fashion since 1952 under its predecessor organizations. A lot of our targeting activities, think accreditation and certification, result from our teammates in St. Louis. It has a global impact, but the expertise resides in St. Louis to enable that capability on a large scale. We do a lot of work with Motion GEOINT in support of OCONUS contingency operations. Very proud of that work. And Ms. Bingen mentioned Maven and gave you an update this morning in her remarks. We're certainly partnered with that team to enable our capability to evolve in a natural, logical way in support of the department. And I will tell you a little known fact about St. Louis. A lot of our financial management experts reside there, to include down in Arnold, our employee pay, but more importantly to this audience, our vendor pay. So if we have a problem, it's in Arnold, Missouri.
All right. Thank you, Brett. Okay, I'm going to start asking some of the questions that we've received from the audience. 1 second. Okay. This is for all of you, or for any of you. What is NGA or the city doing to create a culture that attracts younger staff? So
That's a great
little bit.
question. I think, one of the things that NGA is trying to do is really embrace the innovation community. As we see the younger crowd come in, we want to show them that with N2W, it's going to be a more open environment, a lot of ability to engage with the public in an unclassified space. We're going to have a big unclassified space. So I think just engaging with that innovation community, having folks sit in places like the T-Rex, sit over at the Kick and in other spaces in St. Louis, I think is going to go a long way to showing them that we are an innovative agency.
So I'm sure all of you heard the mayor speak this morning, so I'm just going to repeat one of the lines. And St. Louis has the fastest growing millennial population by percent of any city in the nation. So we are very millennial friendly. And folks really love to work in the city and the urban lifestyle that is the city of St. Louis. So the one thing that I failed to mention in my earlier remarks that I have to do now is that T-Rex is really one of our secrets in St. Louis, but at T-Rex is something else that we've gotten kick off. It's called Geosaurus, and I understand that it's really a reptile, but so the Geosaurus is is our effort to be more supportive of the geospatial mission, and so there's a whole floor at the T-Rex that's going to be devoted to that. But if you ever visit T-Rex, it is a building full of millennials, and so the fact that we have a great innovation community both at T-Rex and at Cortex and all around the city, I think we are the place to be.
And just with the academic, with St. Louis University, so I manage the visiting scientist program as well. We've got visiting scientists that we have from SLU, so I think that's a big draw.
Yep, I would definitely reinforce both of those comments. St. Louis is legitimately one of the most vibrant entrepreneurial scenes in the country, and it's taking off, and it's even gaining momentum. So I think that one of the things, I serve on the executive committee of Cortex as well, and one of the things that we're finding there is that we can't build buildings fast enough to fill them, and one of the things that's happening is that national companies are wanting to have a presence in St. Louis because of what's going on here, and they're willing to pay what are substantial rent fees at Cortex, I will admit, because they want to have the innovative location to attract the kind of talent that they wouldn't be able to get in a typical suburban office park. And so I think it really says something about what's going on in St. Louis. And again, the universities were standing up and saying, we're here, we're in it. In the sense of things that wouldn't happen in other places. Washington University and St. Louis University recently stood up a joint collaborative suite where we'll be teaching classes, engaging with the community, engaging with industry, where we're actually genuinely working together in a suite on one of the new buildings in Cortex's campus. So if you want to come to St. Louis, you want to hire our staff, hire our students, you want to engage with our faculty, if you want to commercialize, don't hire our staff. If you want to commercialize our discoveries, this is where you come. And I think you're seeing this downtown at Cortex, you're seeing it or downtown in T-Rex, in Cortex in Midtown, and 39 North, and there's great connectivity between all of these.
Yeah, and I just want to, for the people that are not from St. Louis, Ken is kind of using, so KIC is embedded within the Cortex, right?
Right.
These, just.
KIC stands for Cambridge Innovation Center.
Yeah, or Cortex Innovation Community, depending on which brief you're reading.
This is true.
But
Tara, if I could just comment
Oh, yeah.
a little bit further, kind of in the spirit of public-private partnership, as we went through the site selection process and identified North St. Louis as our new home, part of the activity was focused around making sure the workforce had a vibrant community around it and a vibrant community to connect into in terms of green space, walkways, bike rides, trails, things of that nature. And as we move down the construction path, we've been assured that our new campus will be connected to that in a very deliberate way, which will certainly be appealing to millennials. But we expect not only that area to get a boost, but the entire city to get a boost as a result of that, because there's housing projects being developed, condos and things like that, and local activity going on that is very appealing to the millennialist. And I was even talking to an NGA officer just 2 days ago who has now picked a location right downtown for his new home as he's getting ready to move into the St. Louis area. But it's really created quite a vibe and buzz, not just in the community, but specifically in the NGA workforce about what that opportunity presents up in North St. Louis.
And even us old folks are really excited about it too. It's not just the millennials.
So I'm going to have to jump in and just say that we're investing a lot of money to transform a community. So what you see today is not what you'll see in 5 or 6 years. It is going to be fabulous. We are building those trails. We're essentially rebuilding several streets that are connecting it. So we are fulfilling our commitment, as they say. So.
Yep.
Okay, and I just also want to kind of piggyback on what Ken and Christine, I mean, I know our office, we had a presence in the Kick, then it wasn't big enough. We realized too many of those young millennials were wanting to occupy the space, so we had to increase our office space. I mean, it is definitely where young people want to come and work. The people that we're recruiting out of college, and they don't want to come out to our office in St. Charles. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I love that office, but they want to be downtown, right? I mean, we're seeing it too.
So I need to speak to the fact that Ken referred to space and the cost. We have low-cost space as well, in and around some of the really neat things that are happening, and so we can fulfill your need whether it's low or middle or high. So just ask us. We'll get you there.
Okay, well, I've got all these questions that I have not really got a chance to answer, but I think you guys have kind of answered them along the way. You mentioned a focus on the community outreach. Would you be able to elaborate on this? I think that we've kind of spoken to that. Does anybody have anything more to add on some of that outreach?
Other than as I mentioned, the Project Connect is really our vehicle for our outreach, and but we are working with many nonprofits and the corporate community. As I indicated, all of our friends and in the community are generating new initiatives all the time, and so we have this formal commitment to reach out to the community through Project Connect. But there are a lot of things that are happening outside of that as well.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback on that because some people thought as we transitioned from construction company selection that we were just in some form or fashion handed off to the Army Corps of Engineers and the team. I'll assure you, NGA is fully engaged. The program office will be fully engaged in partnering with our teammates in the Corps of Engineers, our teammates at McCarthy-Hitt now, as we go through this process. And we'll be lashed up at the hip in terms of community engagement, community awareness, community opportunities as we go through this process. So we're exquisitely excited about that partnership moving forward.
And I think, too, I just wanted to mention the St. Louis Area Working Group also has subcommittees that are reaching out to the community. So there's a university R&D subcommittee, there's a K-12 STEM committee, and others that are also helping. And the slog's open to anyone.
Yes, all inclusive.
Yeah, so it's a good way to get involved if you're not involved, and it's also a way that we're engaging with the community.
And you can find more information about joining this log right on the USGIF website. It's listed as a working group. It has a direct link to our page and to our email slug that you can reach out to us.
Tara, I want to just add that in terms of the impact on the community, sorry, a different theme is that we are actually, at St. Louis University, we're actually using geospatial tools to help address the challenges that St. Louis faces and other urban areas around the country as well. So our faculty, for instance, Enbal, Shockham, who's sitting in the office here, she's an epidemiologist who had been using geospatial tools and is now accelerating that work to understand the distribution of health disparities in the city of St. Louis. So a very practical application of the technologies that are coming out of the NGA and the related community.
And just kind of to piggybacking on that, I will say that I don't think you mentioned this, but SLU and NGA did offer like a Geospatial 101. It was bi-weekly, or it was every 2 weeks, right leading up until a georesolution event. And that was something that was a really good way to kind of engage the community. I went to every one of them, and I will say it was a lot of people that were not involved with the St. Louis area working group, but just kind of community members that were asking a lot of questions and wanting to get to know their neighbors better.
Yeah, every single one of them was sold out. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was great. Okay, just probably got one to two more questions. Although I think you kind of did answer this too. Talk about the geographic secret sauce for STL being in between Silicon Valley and DC. I guess we haven't really talked about that. And how does that work to your advantage in St. Louis?
Well, we are the center of the universe, if you. Obviously located on the Mississippi River, but we are right in the center of the U.S. And so I think geographically, within 500 miles of us, we have about 40% of the U.S. Population. So we have a tremendous transportation network, and I think that we sort of fit that niche. In fact, if you ever come to St. Louis, or if you are from St. Louis, you just go to Union Station and you see 3 murals in the Grand Hall. There's one in San Francisco, one in New York, but the center is St. Louis. So we are the center, has been historically.
All right, thank you, Otis. All right, I have one final question. Because we're just about time, but it sounds like there are a lot of good planning and synergy that has been created around St. Louis. If you could add one more thing to the St. Louis geospatial ecosystem, what would it be? And we have an answer already. Does anybody have any guesses, though? Yeah. Mayor, what about the Stanley Cup? Would that be something you guys would want?
Yes, one more. Go Blues.
Let's go Blues. Okay. And that concludes our panel. Thank you.